Hi everyone, my name is Autumn Adams. I prepared this presentation because I want to spend some time talking to you about voting machine hacking. Just to make sure everyone is on the same page, what are voting machines? Just as the slide says, it's a mechanical apparatus used in a polling place to register and count votes. So the saying goes, anything that can be hacked will be hacked. But what do we mean by hacking? It can be described as any unauthorized intrusion into a computer or a network. The person or group of people doing the hacking are known as hackers. These hackers may alter systems or security features to accomplish a goal that differs from the original purpose. So in our case, that would be altering voting machines and manipulating them to accomplish adding or subtracting votes. These are the different types of voting machines and systems that are used across the United States today. We have the direct recording electronic systems, also known as the DRE systems. Then we have the optical scan paper ballot systems, the ballot marking devices and systems, punch card voting systems, and of course the hand-counted paper ballots. I just want to point out that most states don't use just one type of voting machine. Most states use a mixture of all of these different types of voting machines each year. So with that being said, a widespread hack of voting machines is highly unlikely because of this. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so now I just want to go into detail with each of these in a few minutes and talk about how they work, and if you're not familiar with these machines and systems. But before I do that, I want to discuss the standards and guidelines for these systems. We have the Help America Vote Act, or for short, HAVA. It is a federal program that reformed aspects of the United States election system. The law was prompted by voting issues encountered in the contested presidential election of 2000. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with that, but the HAVA serves as a clearinghouse for election administration information. It provides funds to states to improve election administration and to replace outdated voting machines. It creates a minimal standard for states to follow in several key areas of the election administration. Along with the HAVA, we also have the Election Assistant Commission, or the EAC. This was also actually just created by the HAVA. This commission defines the requirements for voting systems. They accredit test labs and define these requirements of how these labs should test products. They review the test labs' work and certify those products that pass the test and meet the requirements. Okay, so going back to the different kinds of voting machines and types of systems, I just want to talk about how they work. So, direct recording electronic systems, or DRE systems, these are perhaps the systems that receive the most scrutiny. Using these machines, a voter casts their vote with either a touchscreen, button, or dial. The vote is immediately cast into an electronic storage medium. The optical scan allows voters to fill in a sheet by hand, and then it is tallied using a machine. It is very similar to taking and filling out a standardized test, as you can see here in the picture of a voter filling in a bubble as you would a standardized test. Here we have the ballot marking devices and systems, also known as the BMD. For Americans with disability, casting a vote can be very difficult. The HAVA that we discussed earlier helped to standardize expectations for voting machines for people with these kinds of with just disabilities in general. The BMD allows for people with disabilities to vote. So the BMD does not actually count the votes. Instead, it just helps the individual mark their ballots. Once that person has their voting choices and they've marked their ballots, they take that ballot to an optical scanner that reads the marked paper ballot and adds up their results to the rest. Okay, so next we have the punch card voting systems. For these systems, a voter would place the punch cards into a clipboard-sized device, like you can see here in the picture. From there, they would use a stylus or pencil-looking object to poke holes into a perforated squares. These squares are actually called chads. So each chad would correspond to a candidate that they are voting for or want to vote for. After voting, the voter places this ballot into a ballot box, or the ballot may be fed into a computer vote tabulating device at the present time. So no jurisdictions actually used punch card voting machines in this past election. Okay, so next we have the hand-counted paper ballot. This is pretty much, of course, self-explanatory. Everything is done completely by hand. The voter makes the ballot, marks the ballot by hand with a provided pen or pencil, and then gives the ballot to an election official who also counts the ballot and choices by hand. So along with these different types of voting machines and devices come different vulnerabilities and risks to watch out for. So, of course, outdated machines and software are a big one. Then we have accessible ports, and of course, human factors have a big impact. And then we have the inefficient safeguards. So, I want to talk about these in more detail and give examples of what I mean by these vulnerabilities and risks. Okay, so first off, we have the outdated machines and software. Today, over 40 states in the United States actually use outdated machines and software that are well over 10 years old. This is pretty much at the end of their lifespans. So the machine uses software such as Microsoft Windows XP, Windows 2000, and even older versions without any security updates or maintenance being done. The malware needed to infect outdated operating systems such as the Windows XP and 2000 can be downloaded or purchased for a little bit of nothing on the dark net. I believe it's no more than $15. These old machines and software, they make it easy for hackers. This would be a hacker's paradise. So they could get into these systems with hardly any hassle at all, if any. Next, we have accessible ports. Anywhere a device can be plugged in or connected to a voting machine leaves it susceptible for manipulation to add or delete votes. One way is by USB infections. Voting machines equipped with USB ports can be infected with malware that can alter voting data by a simple flash drive to transfer the malware. Memory cards, which are perhaps the most crucial and vulnerable part of an election machine, the memory card actually contains the voting records. This can be manipulated through any accessible port. Also, the mainframes of these machines are guarded by easy-to-pick padlocks but no barrier at all. So tampering with these machines, memory cards could add or subtract hundreds of votes for candidates. So we also have inefficient safeguards. Most voting machines use inefficient and outdated encryption protocols as well as weak passwords to store important data such as voting records. Instead, it has been found that they use weak homebrewed encryption algorithms and hard-coded encryption keys with simple passwords such as ABCDE, basically leaving the door wide open for hackers to intrude. Another inefficient safeguard is Wi-Fi. Although most of these machines do not actually use internet connection, some still do, and it's still something to watch out for. Data can be modified unnoticeably on voting machines through Wi-Fi from any kind of nearby location. Even when the wireless functionality is turned off, the network card on the machine stays online and keeps receiving and sending data. This makes for a greater opportunity for hackers since they do not actually physically tamper with the machine itself. Last but not least, we have human factors. People can be the number one vulnerability for these machines, whether it be the polling workers, programmers who conduct updates for the voting machines, or election officials who install and operate the machines. None of these people who come in contact with the machines are left alone with these machines are actually not required to have security clearance or background checks done. So you can only imagine the number of things that can go wrong here. Okay, and here is just a list of references where I gathered all of my information. Okay guys, that concludes my presentation on voting machine hacking. I hope you've all enjoyed it and learned a lot about the topic. I actually want to close out with a short quiz. It will consist of 5 multiple choice questions. Just pause the video after I read the question so you will have time to answer the question with as much time as you need. I will provide the correct answer after each question. Good luck and thank you for listening. Question number 1. What are the 5 types of voting machines? The answer to question number 1 is B. Question number 2. What was the name of the act that was passed in 2002 that serves as a clearinghouse for an election administration information? The answer to number 2 is D, Help America Vote Act. Question number 3. What are the 4 vulnerabilities for voting machines? Answer to number 3 is A, outdated machines and software, accessible ports, human factors, and inefficient safeguards. Question number 4. How many states today use outdated voting machines and hardware that are over 10 years old? The answer to number 4 is B, about 40. Question number 5. Which of the following is an example of how an accessible port can be used to manipulate a voting machine? C, USB port to transfer malicious files or add votes.